You know, it's easy for us to talk about the paranormal nowadays. Just film it on your phone, post it on TikTok, and boom, you've got your proof. But back in the late 19th century, things were different. If something strange happened, the local newspaper wrote about it, and people believed what they read because back then, the paper was their only window to the world. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that, in 1887, terrorized the entire state of Kentucky. It was reprinted from paper to paper, gossiped about at county fairs, and whispered about in dark corners. It's the story of a family who encountered something so unexplainable, they had to flee their own home, leaving everything behind. This story begins on the Gladshell farm in Baxville, and, as you might have guessed from the title, it didn't end well. I dug through the archives, found old clippings, and pieced together the timeline of events. Believe me, this isn't just a campfire story. It's a chronicle of a nightmare that lasted 4 months. Samuel Gladshell was an ordinary farmer, hardworking, not a fool. He lived with his wife and a bunch of kids in a solid wooden house. Everything was normal. The farm, the livestock, the daily chores. In the spring of 1887, nothing in their lives hinted at the coming disaster. Well, almost nothing. It started with small things, the kind you usually chalk up to forgetfulness. Sheets started going missing. Can you imagine? Freshly laundered sheets and blankets would just disappear. The family would search the whole house arguing, thinking one of the kids was playing a prank. Then, a day or two later, they'd find them, neatly folded, but not in the linen closet. They'd be in the barn or on the couch in the living room, like someone had borrowed them, used them, and then brought them back, but put them in the wrong place. "Mary, did you take the sheets?" Samuel would ask his wife. "No, I thought you put them away." These little exchanges became more and more frequent. Then, things got weird with the water. Water started dripping from the bedroom ceiling. No rain, no leaks, just a steady drip. They checked the roof dry, the attic dry, but the water kept dripping, and it seemed to be coming not from anywhere specific, but right out of the ceiling itself. Then, an old boot fell from above. It just dropped from the ceiling in the middle of the night. The family would jump up, but there was nobody upstairs. And right then, for the first time, they thought to themselves, "Are we all losing our minds at the same time?" When the neighbors heard about the strange occurrences, they started whispering that the Gladshells were just looking for attention, but anyone who actually visited the house quickly changed their tune. One time, the father went up to the attic to check that same roof. Suddenly, he heard heavy breathing right behind him. He spun around, no one was there, but the footsteps didn't stop. Someone was following him, step for step, literally inches away, but staying completely invisible. "Who's there?" he shouted into the emptiness. Silence was the only reply, but the air grew heavy and cold. Furniture started moving on its own. Chairs that were against the wall would end up in the middle of the room. Beds would creak even when no one was sitting on them. And then, one day, the eldest son found his pistol on the floor, with the hammer cocked. If it had just fallen by accident, the hammer wouldn't be back. Someone had deliberately pulled it back and laid it down. Samuel told the kids to stay away from the guns, but he knew in his heart, whatever had moved into their home either didn't know fear, or was just playing with them. For now, it was just playing. By autumn, rumors about the cursed house had spread so far across the county that trying to keep it quiet was useless. A few brave neighbors decided to come over and see for themselves if the Gladshells had truly lost their minds. The group entered the house in the evening. At first, it was quiet, but as soon as they sat down at the table, a torrent of ice-cold water crashed down from the ceiling in the hallway. Not just drops, it was like a whole bucket of water had been dumped on the floor. Everyone jumped up. One little boy, a neighbor's son, got scared and climbed into a big wardrobe to hide. At that exact moment, the wardrobe doors, which were tightly shut, suddenly burst open on their own, and the boy screamed. He was soaked inside a closed wardrobe, where there wasn't a single crack. Where is that water coming from? His mother screamed. No one could answer. And then, laughter echoed from under the stairs. Clear, human laughter, low, from deep in the chest. Everyone froze. The laughter was coming from an empty corner where nobody was standing. That same night, the neighbors left and never came back. The next morning, one of them was telling the story at the tavern. That place is unclean. There's something in there. It's not evil. It's like a child, but a very, very dangerous child. The climax came out of nowhere. A fire broke out in one of the empty rooms. No reason. The wall just caught fire. They put it out quickly. Thank God everyone was alert. But that evening, when the family went back into that room, a candle was burning. There was a single lit candle on the table, and in the room, a violin was playing. A neighbor, Mary Lawson, later wrote in her diary, "We heard someone walking right next to us. Even though we were all standing still, the air was freezing cold, and even the candles went out by themselves. The violin was playing all alone, a sad, drawn-out melody. No one was touching the bow. It went on for a few minutes. Then the music stopped, but the morning brought the worst terror yet. When the family came down for breakfast, they found human bones on the table, a skull, vertebrae, and next to every plate, a sprig of cedar. In those parts, cedar had always been a symbol of death. It wasn't a message. It was a warning. You are not the masters here." The Gladshells fled. They abandoned their house, their livestock, their belongings. They left that very night to stay with relatives in a neighboring county. The house sat boarded up for years, until it eventually burned to the ground in another mysterious fire. But here's the most interesting part. In the Kentucky archives, a small newspaper clipping from 1887 still exists. It's titled "The House Where Death Plays the Fiddle." It describes events exactly as I've told them to you. Historians still debate what really happened. There are a few theories. The first theory, the mystical one. The house was built on an old Native American burial ground, and the spirits never forgave them for disturbing their rest. The second theory, a tragic one. 20 years before these events, in 1869, a young woman took her own life in a house that stood on that very spot. Her name? Well, history didn't record it, but the local old-timers used to say she loved music and played the fiddle. Maybe her soul never found peace and just came back. What do you think? Was it mass hysteria, hallucinations caused by dampness and stress, or something else entirely? To me, the scariest part isn't the mysticism. It's the feeling of total helplessness. You're in your own home, your own fortress, and something invisible is moving your furniture, breathing down your neck, and laughing from the emptiness. You can't chase it away. You can't reason with it. You're just a toy. The Gladshell house is long gone, but the place still has a dark reputation. Locals say that even now, if you go there at night, you can hear silence, a thick, muffled silence, and then a single, lonely note from a fiddle.